Go ahead and call this regular meeting of the HERE Commission to order at 6:32 p.m. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, which is going to be led by Lucy Hakovian.
Thank you, Chair Jennings Nunez. If I can have everyone put your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance
to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Lucy. Daniel, if you could please call the roll.
Chair Chastity Jennings Nunez.
Here.
Vice Chair George Herrera.
Present.
Commissioner Jacqueline Borja.
Here.
Commissioner Michelle Branha.
She's there.
Commissioner
Speakers.
Michelle Branha.
Her microphone is.
Commissioner Brenha, I think you may be on mute.
Yeah, my internet is going in and out, so I lost audio for a little bit. Sorry about that. Okay, I could hear now though. So here.
Perfect. Commissioner Michelle Branha.
Oh, that was me.
Commissioner Susan.
You're saying, oh, here,
Fitzsimmons.
here. Sorry.
Commissioner Susan Fitzsimmons.
Here.
Commissioner Vicky Goto.
Here.
And Commissioner Riaz Khan.
Here.
Thank you. So if everyone could just review the agenda order, and if there are any objections to the agenda order, if you could please raise those. Hearing none, the agenda order is approved. Matthew?
Okay, so tonight's meeting is live streamed on cable channel 3 and our online platforms. Please email all public comments to Matthew Morales-Stevens at mmoralesstevens@sgch.org no later than the time the item is considered by the Commission tonight. Comments will be read for up to 3 minutes each. Comments received after the end of the public comment section will be forwarded to the Commission after the meeting. If you wish to be added to the distribution list to receive Commission agendas, please email your request to mmoralesstevens@sgch.org.
So public comment, this is the time set aside for members of the public to address the HERE Commission on items of interest that are not on the agenda or are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the HERE Commission. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the HERE Commission cannot answer any questions or take any action until such time as the matter may appear as an item on a future agenda. Matthew, do we have any public comments?
We do not have public comments at this time.
Thank you. So we are just going to take a moment. I just have two announcements or two items that I wanted to bring up. One, as the HERE Commissioners, I think it is important that we acknowledge Heritage Month, and this is Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. May is the time that's set aside to recognize those contributions of those people to our society. So please, take advantage of all of the educational and cultural opportunities that are out there. And then the second is that tonight is a very wonderful celebration that Rick is going to tell us about, but Eid Mubarak, my understanding is that is the appropriate greeting. And Commissioner Khan, if you could just tell us a little bit about why you might have to leave us early this meeting.
Thank you. Today marks the end of our 30-day fasting, and it's an annual ritual. We have certain, it's a part of the faith that we follow. And tomorrow is our festival celebration. It's the Eid, that's what we call. And it equates to Christmas. So we have two celebrations throughout the year, which are the major. And one of them is, and this is the highlight, or this is the best one. So I might take a couple of minutes just to traditionally, the Quran was revealed over 23 years, over a period of 23 years to the Prophet Muhammad. And the tenets of the faith are that he actually practiced them with the followers that he had, or his companions as they're called. So his following is called sunnah, which is basically not the mandatory, but attached with the mandatory. And it has sort of, it's written, and also the following has actually been transcended from the generation. So it's about 1,500 years. I'm not sure what generation I am in, if you start from that time. However, that's how we have followed through the time. And this is the end of the Ramadan as we speak today. Usually it's in countries where they follow traditionally, they sight the moon and then they start the celebration. And in countries where Muslim majority, the holidays, they enjoy the whole week. However, with what we do here, we basically celebrated the Eid on Thursday. And we greet each other, we call each other, we visit each other on normal times, and we invite folks to our homes. And so that throughout the day, that's the celebration goes through.
Thank you, Commissioner Khan. So, one of our purposes on the commission is to increase cultural competence. So I think it is important that we acknowledge celebrations like this that all of us may not celebrate, but it's important for all of us to know and to respect. So Commissioner Khan may need to leave a little bit early if we are still in our meeting at around 7:45.
Yes.
So, thank you, Commissioner Khan. So with that, the next item is going to be our discussion and development of the annual work plan. So during this time, this commission will discuss items in the draft annual work plan, including items that should either be added or removed for submission to City Council to either approve or revise. At this time, I will turn it over to the staff to provide a brief introduction to that work plan.
Thank you, Chair Jennings. So just to give a brief introduction to the work plan and under the draft work plan that we've put together based off of last commission meeting's comments. We've gathered all of the ideas, all of the thoughts that were put together at the last meeting and put a draft work plan together. Our intention is to have it finalized by the next regular meeting on May 25th, and then have it submitted to council for approval at the June 15th council meeting. So that's kind of the timeline that we're working with. We know that it's quick, but we're confident that we can do our part, and you guys are already off to a fantastic start. So we thank you for that. With that said, you'll notice in the draft work plan, it is broken up into subsections, kind of taking some of those thoughts and putting it into categories to make it a little bit easier for us to follow along with. And anybody can just pick it up and see kind of what the intention is. So you'll notice it's broken up into community engagement, youth engagement, community information, accessibility, partnerships, and data collection. Let's see. It is important to keep in mind, since we are starting in a current work plan year, that we only have about 6 months to really finish the items that are going to be finished, put on the work plan. So that's definitely something to keep in mind as you have the discussion tonight. Just some things that staff identified as things to consider as you are having the discussion is going to be the creation of the cultural museum, as well as the establishment of a youth advisory or commission. Just looking at the timelines on that and whether or not you feel that it's going to be feasible at this time. Just because you may think it's not feasible at this time doesn't mean you can't make a note of it and add it for the 2022 annual work plan. So just something to keep in mind as you're working towards that, because we definitely want to make sure that anything that you're putting on there is attainable. That way you guys aren't stressing out over it and you know that it's something that you can feasibly accomplish. As we're going through it, if there's something that is added on there that you aren't sure of the timeline, we've done some research to help guide you through that. So feel free to call on us as you're having the discussion. Let's see. So in your agenda packet is also the notes from the last meeting separated by each commissioner. So if for some reason I left something off, I do apologize. I did my best to go back to those notes and make sure I didn't miss anybody, but I believe I have captured everybody's thoughts. And there was some overlap, so I didn't put that in twice. So just something to keep in mind. Let's see. So with that said, Mark and Rebecca are going to be giving us some updates based off of the items that are listed under accessibility and data collection.
Rebecca, are you jumping in?
Sorry, I'm here. I just had to step away for 1 second. So we did want to update you on a couple of items with the data collection. These were kind of items that we grouped together as part of kind of under the category of data collection. Some of the items that had been asked or mentioned by the commissioners were to have information and analysis for traffic stops made by San Gabriel Police Department and calls for suspicious people and vehicles made. There was also the item about analysis of the business licensing process and statistics on which applications for business licenses have been approved and denied. And then information on the demographics of city employees compared to the demographics of the city residents. In preparation for tonight's meeting, I did reach out to those particular departments. So that's police department, finance with the business licensing is under our finance department, and human resources for the information about employees. It appears that all of those items, those specific requests are not necessarily items that are tracked. Obviously, there are aspects of those things. For example, regarding the business licensing, the indication from our finance director was that business licenses are typically provided. They're not typically denied, if you will, unless there's like a planning or a zoning issue with the business. But that being said, they have listings of those that are awarded business licenses, not necessarily if there are any who have not been awarded business licenses. So those specific items are not necessarily tracked. So our recommendation would be, as part of the discussion tonight, that the commission can discuss those items, determine if those are specifically items that you would like to include on your work plan. And again, those were the items that were mentioned at that first meeting. So those were the ones that we looked into. If those are items that you would like to include as part of that work plan, we would recommend that you do that be submitted to council. And then as council reviews the work plan, and if they agree that those are items that would warrant looking into, some of those may be things that staff can provide more easily. For example, the information on the demographics of city employees, that's not something that our human resources department currently tracks. However, they could initiate that. It just may take some time. So we'd like to have the commission have that discussion tonight to determine if indeed those are things that the majority of you agree would be something that you would like to see data on, and then that can be added to the work plan. Once reviewed and approved by council, then that would be something that staff could kind of figure out how to implement that and pull that information together. So hopefully that makes sense. I'd be happy to answer any questions on that, but that was the information that I had obtained.
Thanks, Rebecca. And I was going to talk about one of the items on your proposed work plan, which is the accessibility aspect of it. And you'll recall the accessibility had to do with finding a way for the community to be able to better access council and commission meetings. And some of those ways would be through, I assume would be through translations of agendas and PowerPoints, meeting minutes, and eventually maybe getting so good as to be able to do live translations of council meetings. Although that's that's a dream that is something probably a little bit further off than I would hope. But I'll tell you that as far as just the basics of translating the agenda itself is something that we've been working on internally here for a bit and had intended to implement sooner rather than later. So the goal is to have that implemented sometime early this next fiscal year, probably in August or so. I have a question for all of you, and as you work through this part of it, if you want to include that on your work plan to get better than just what we're working on, I welcome that and would like your input on how to do that. But a question relates around equity, in that we have a process in how we put our agendas together. And this is true for council and all of the commissions as well. But as an example, today happens to be a day where we are scrambling to put together an agenda for the city council meeting for next Tuesday. Our meetings are posted by the end of the day on Wednesday. Sometimes that's 4 in the evening. Sometimes that could be 8 or 9 at night. Believe it or not, the staff that you don't see here from the city clerk's office is working on that as we speak, and we'll get that posted tonight. And we do that so that the community has as much time as possible to access that material. And sometimes those packets are very thick and full of information. And so we try to give folks a lot of time to review those. But if we were to move towards translating those, and I'd like to start at a minimum with Chinese and Spanish, and then eventually we would add other languages. But the way our process works is, the staff from different departments put all of that together and it gets coordinated by the clerk's office. And then we would post that on a Wednesday evening. And then we would send that off for translation services to somebody to be able to put that all together. And that might take a day or two before we get that part posted. I look at that as a step in the right direction, that by Friday at the latest, somebody who isn't able to access our agenda in English would at least be able to see the titles and the summaries of those items. And then they would be able to contact somebody who is able to help them in language to work through those items and get deeper into the agenda items. And again, I look at that as a step in the right direction. But I also recognize that that's an inequity inequity situation where people are getting it in English on one day and then in other languages on days after that. So I'm sensitive to that and would appreciate if the commission would, as you work through that process of what you're wanting for access, that you consider that as one of the pitfalls of the way that we do our work here as a city in trying to get information out to the public. We are supportive, though, of trying to do that and trying to better access information for our community on the whole, and would welcome any suggestions that you have on that side. And that's all I had to report. And as Rebecca and Maggie said, be more than happy to answer any questions about any and all of this as we get into the work plan itself.
Perfect. Thank you, Mark and Rebecca. We appreciate it. Just some last few notes that I didn't make prior. At the front portion of that annual work plan, you will notice that we do have the purpose of the commission and the scope of the commission. So just remember, as you're going through the discussion, that those should be your guiding principles for each and every topic. As I'm sure you have already taken that into account, but just a friendly reminder there. But with that said, if you don't have any questions, I'll turn it back over to Chair Jennings.
Thank you, Matthew. And I do think that it is, as Matthew said, just because these are our guiding kind of principles, the purpose for the commission, that it is worth reading the purpose out loud for those who may be listening to our meeting. So I'm happy to read it, but I don't know if someone else would like to read it. Vice Chair Herrera, if you would like to read our purpose aloud before we start.
Sure, let me find it really quick.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Vice Chair Herrera. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I really didn't.
No worries. As long as I can find it, where is it? I can't see it. Is it on the agenda?
have it here. You're going to be the first person to speak. So I'm going to read it. The purpose
Perfect.
of
I
the
found it. Found it. Ready?
excellent.
Don't worry. I was just down reading everybody's notes, so I had to scroll up and try to find it. The purpose of the commission. The purpose of the HERE Commission is to advance and advocate for equity, access, diversity, social justice, safety, mutual appreciation, increase cultural competency, positive intergroup relations, and respect for all members of San Gabriel, of the San Gabriel community.
Thank you.
That's
So
the purpose.
yes, if we could just keep the time, as Matthew said, as we go through our annual work plan. And then I also just want to acknowledge all the work that Matthew and Lucy and all of the city staff put into gathering all our comments together and developing this draft work plan, because it's going to make our discussion tonight a lot more effective and efficient. So with that, I'm going to open it up to the commission to provide their input, starting actually with Vice Chair Herrera.
So my take on it is that, yeah, I understand that, you know, I had one comment or one topic on my agenda for the cultural museum. I think we can look into that as far as looking at the museum, not creating the actual museum. At this point, I feel it's like Matthew said, it's a long-term kind of thing. So it's not something that we can finish this year, but we can definitely consider it next year. But something that we could do is partner up with the museums right now that we have locally in town to see if we can do something something with them. But even with that said, with COVID, I fear that that's not going to be possible. So I'm gonna, at this point, I think we should consider that for next year and just scratch that for right now, because I don't think it's possible with COVID. As far as one of the notes where I was going through right now, Commissioner Brainhog, I'm sorry if I butchered your last name. I like the awareness on the mental health awareness. So I want to be a strong advocate on that. Mental health is very important, especially in these days where we have COVID. We have many people, committing suicide. I don't have the actual numbers, but that will be a very interesting topic that we should address with our community. I feel that's going to be definitely heartfelt. As far as everything else, I'll leave some room for everybody else. I'm sure everybody is going to have different topics, so I'll leave some room for everybody else. Thank you.
Matthew, is the best way to do this, or Mark, to go through each person and come back and have a general discussion, or can we comment along the way on each commissioner's input?
Sure. I think it's fine either way. I would recommend just giving everyone that clear platform at the beginning, and then we can, everyone can kind of add in, because it's possible that people may have that on their list of things to discuss anyways. It just might be more effective that way, but if you want to do it another way, that's perfectly fine as well.
So we'll go on to Commissioner Khan.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Actually. I noticed that in your last time that the item number 3 is increase civic engagement. In one of my items, number 1 was equity of the services provided. Now, and then I see that there are various suggestions from commissioners revolve around the same same point, like the services provided by the city and the perception of the citizens. One of the things we have to see is how do we plan, or how do we devise our efforts to meet this goal, which is to assess the services which the citizens are receiving and the value they put in, which means that whether they're satisfied or not satisfied. That would be my goal, to find ways of reaching the citizens to find their understanding of the services that's being provided. and if they have any sort of complaints or whether they're getting equitable, whether how they feel, they're basically I mean, I like to sort of compile some sort of questionnaire that'll give us some ideas about what their perceptions are in terms of the services. And I think overall services would probably be unattainable. But if we pick up specific services which can target the people of color as well as the entire citizenry, that might give us a little sense of the equitable services that's being provided. And that's probably my main sort of goal today, to see if there is a understanding of all the rest of the commissioners, to see what we can come up with.
Thank you, Commissioner Khan. So we will go to Commissioner Godo.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate all of the work the staff did to really categorize all of our suggestions. I think there were quite a lot of overlap between people's ideas, so it's nice to see it come together in a format that is very well organized. So thank you. I think for me, one of the biggest things, and I think a number of people have mentioned the youth component, and given that this is a sort of 6-month endeavor for our first annual plan, for me, I would hope to prioritize establishing the Youth Advisory Commission or Council to have young people's voices be a part of this from the beginning. I think out of the different options that we had listed under youth engagement, to me, I would prioritize that over establishing a youth internship program, which I also think is very valuable to learn more about how the city works and to gain a better understanding of what this commission is doing and sort of some of the issues. But I would hope that we could, in the shorter term, make sure that we've got the youth voice as part of the discussion from the beginning. So that's my major take on that. I do agree with the other commissioners who have spoken, but I will yield and say that was my major thought.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next, Commissioner Fitzsimmons.
Yes, hi there. Good evening. I also agree, with everyone else as far as the getting a something out to the public to ask them what they are interested in, and if they have something specific that they want to see the city do for them. Because we have a number of ethnic groups here, and each group maybe has a different request. I also would like to see some type of a questionnaire go out to our youth as far as mental health, because we have a lot of young people, as the schools are starting to go back into session now, that are very troubled. They've been out of school for a year, and they're going back and they're having to reintegrate with their friends, with their teachers. It's now different than what they were teaching at home. Even though I don't have children of that age, I do see a lot of the children that are really stressed about either going back to school now, because COVID is not quite over yet. They have some fears. And I think maybe as a city, we can maybe assure them that we're there to help them. We can maybe give them some key areas to where they can talk to, someone they can talk to either at the schools. But I think we need to kind of look into the mental health of our young people, because I think there's more problems out there than what we realize. And again, the panels for the young people, that's down the road a little bit. I think we're still very new. We're trying to establish our footsteps here as to where we're going to go. And we all need to kind of say, hey, let's all kind of get together when we this first round, at least for the first couple of months, and say, let's kind of go together all as a group. Let's do something. Let's present it to the council. And then we can go forward in our different directions with the different areas that we want to see achieved. But I do feel that the mental health is really, really at the top of the list for our young people. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Brinha?
Thank you. Yeah, I think I agree that I think mental health is very important. And I think the youth, yes. And I think that's something we can maybe partner with San Gabriel Unified School District to look into as well. Because I know that I'm on some committees with them as well. And that's one of the big areas that they're looking to improve is mental health services also for the students. But as somebody who has mental health, who goes through struggles with mental health, it's something that's not talked about, but a lot of people struggle with it. And so I feel like, yeah, just doing something to normalize, feelings of depression or anxiety, having more resources for that. And I think the pandemic has really amped up a lot of those feelings for a lot of people. So yeah, I think I'm not exactly sure how to attack it. I think on here, it talked about working with the SGPD's mental evaluation team. And I think that is a good place to start. I mean, I would even just love to hear more about what that program is doing and how, they're reaching people. So I also, I like the community information stuff, just making the information more accessible. So all of the social media and website updates. And to comment on what Mark was talking about with the translation of the documents, I mean, my take on it is that, something is better than nothing, having them in another language, even if it's a day later. But maybe also making it clear when those dates are that they're going to be posted so that people know when to look for the information online, to have a schedule of that somewhere that's easily accessed as well. And I also wanted to speak a little bit about the language immersion topic, because actually both of my children are in the language immersion program with SGUSD. So we can talk more about that, but I'm just wondering what the expansion, what kind of expansion we're talking about, different languages or higher grades or what, and that's it for me.
Thank you, Commissioner Brinha. And Commissioner Borja. I said I wouldn't start with you every time, so I'm going to make you.
Thank you very much. So as you know that I'm a high school counselor, so I do have access to the students. And that's one of the big platforms for me was the youth engagement. There's a wealth of resources for these kids to actually have these kids participate. In terms of even, TED Talks maybe for youth, right? Even surrounding mental health issues or surrounding equity issues, those things like that. And it just doesn't have to be Gabrielino students. It could be, students from Mission High School, San Gabriel, the Christian school as well. So I'm a big proponent of that in terms of the youth engagement. With regards to community information, the nice thing about the community information is there's a lot of information already out there. So I know LAUSD has this mental health, but also food resources, shelter resources. It's a very lengthy website that has a lot of information. All the San Gabriel, I definitely can speak about Gabrielino, but all the teachers, the counselors, when we have that email, we have our signature, but we also have all the links to mental health services. So crisis information, texting, things like that. So a lot of that information is there and it's just easy to access. So I think community information, is something that could quickly be done as well. And then we have worked with the MET team, the San Gabriel PD MET team, which is a great program that Chief Harris had started. And then we also have a lot of great community agencies in mental health too, like Pacific Clinics and El Mansour, where they could probably do presentations on that mental health. So I'm kind of tying in a little bit of the partnerships and then the community information and the youth engagement. And while I think, some people might think that the youth engagement might be a little ambitious, it's amazing what these kids can do in a short amount of time. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to start mine off with a couple of questions, maybe to help us frame some of our other discussion. But Mark, or can someone tell us what is the city's role with San Diego Unified School District? I mean, I know that there's a liaison from the city council, but how much input does the city have in terms of the school district's curriculum, or what we can ask them to do in terms of a partnership?
I'll start, Chair Jennings, and Rebecca, if you can jump in, because your partnership has been a lot longer than mine has. But we have little to no say at all in what their curriculum and what they teach in the schools. If there was something that we wanted to add, let's say, in their government course, if we wanted to add, something to do with the city and how that works, I would say that my relationship with the superintendent and all of our staff relationship with our counterparts is very good. And I would think that was something that would be considered, but we don't have any role with their the way they put together their curriculum as it is now. That said, we do deal very, very closely with them on a lot of issues. We have joint use agreements for the parks. We interface with them for our meals programs and some of our outreach to some of the families in our city that need help around the holidays and throughout the year. So we do have a great relationship with them, but not specifically related to curriculum. I'll end it by saying that that is one of the things that I think the City Council envisioned the Hair Commission doing, was creating those partnerships with groups in the city and not just working directly with the city itself. So I think that that was one of the roles that they had hoped that you all would be able to do, is to figure out how to create those partnerships, and whether it's with the commission and the school district, or whether it's with the city itself and the school district, but that was some of the work that they envisioned.
Thank you. So I'm just trying to go through our work plan and start to kind of consolidate things a little bit. So in terms of partnerships and 5B, I think at least initially, at most, maybe we could send some kind of, I don't know, make a recommendation to send some type of communication just stressing the importance of expanding the immersion programs in the school district, but I don't know if we should put a lot of beyond that on our work plan, because really that's a school district decision to make. Other than supporting it, I don't know if we want to keep that on our work plan. And please feel free, I don't know if we can make it a free-for-all, Matthew will let us do that, but feel free to kind of raise your hand or
can we just do that, or?
Can I?
Okay.
Can
Rebecca,
I?
hey.
Rebecca. Yes.
Sorry, if I can just add a little bit. Mark did a great job of summarizing kind of the relationship with the school district. I would say there are a couple of other avenues that we've learned about or that have been in place or that we've learned about recently. So we do have after school programs at all of our elementary schools up through our middle schools. Those are not in place right now. We do have a virtual program going on, but because of COVID, those programs have not been in place. So that's one avenue where we would actually have some direct contact with younger youth, which might be different than the high school age students that we might have other contact with. So elementary schools, also through middle school. And then recently, I know we did partner, and Mark mentioned our holiday basket program. So at the holidays, we work with the Women's Foundation to offer meals to families and actually seniors that need them. And at that time, we learned about, and I think this is, and maybe Commissioner Borja can jump in on this as well. I think this might be a relatively new portion of the district that's been formed with Ruth Esselm, who used to be at Gabriel High School, and she's now overseeing kind of a social services division at the district. And so that's another branch. We actually worked with them, and they are in direct contact with some of the families that are in need of services. So I think maybe some of that mental health component may be part of that branch. And again, Commissioner Borja probably has more information on that. But I could see there being some connections with that group as well. And possibly if the commission was interested in future meetings, we could have, for example, someone from the MET team or someone from that social services department of the district actually provide some information, have a brief presentation to talk with the commission kind of about what their role is and what they do. So I could see that those might be good ways. So Mark's correct that really in terms of curriculum, we don't have any say, and I don't know that I see that changing, and I don't know that the district needs anyone else telling them how to do schooling, because I know that's a challenge to begin with. The only other thing I wanted to add is regarding the youth component. There is the idea of the youth commission on there. As you all know, because I think you probably saw the formation of this commission and kind of the length of time that took, and that was, I would say, a relatively quick process. Mark worked very closely with Mayor Menchaca and Councilmember Pooh to form that commission. But the other idea might be to present the idea of having a youth member on this commission, or a youth kind of liaison, if you will, to this commission. As Commissioner Borja mentioned, the Gabrielino specifically, we've worked with them. They have a lot of clubs and a lot of very active youth, and there may be an opportunity to partner with one of those groups and or possibly even have an actual active participant be a part of this commission. And that may be a way to, rather than developing an actual team commission, that may be a good start to get that kind of youth input that you may be looking for. So those were just a couple of things, a couple of thoughts that I had as well.
Thank you, Rebecca. And actually, before I open it up, I will just go through mine real quickly, and then Commissioner Khan, I do want to give you a few minutes before you leave. So in terms of my review of the work plan, starting from the top with community engagement, I do think it is important that we at least identify, as I said, I really think that this year we should make it our goal to have some type of city-sponsored celebration of Native American Heritage Month, and the Tongue for Drive in particular. This falls under access, cultural competence, our mutual appreciation, positive intergroup relations, all those things that we are part of our purpose. So I would make that one of our work plan items. And the type of celebration, certainly we can discuss maybe at the next meeting, but I would want that to occur. For the creation of a cultural museum, I know that we can't create a whole museum, but San Gabriel does have it's the San Gabriel Historical Museum, or Mark, maybe, or maybe we could recommend an exhibit that happens for a month or two. If we could work with them to put together an exhibit that highlights some of the cultural diversity of San Gabriel and utilize those resources that we already have while we work towards a larger, more grand idea. For youth engagement, I'm thinking that hopefully this is another partnership where we could really partner with community services, because they already have a huge youth program. And so identifying youth that want to serve, that might be great. I do like the idea that Rebecca just brought up in terms of having a youth liaison, but I would want to open it up to the city as opposed to just going directly to Gabrielino. Again, we're all about equity, so we need to make it equitable and open it up to the whole city's youth. And so in that case, we might want to consider whether we could have more than one, like two, just to make it better. Again, along the lines of the youth engagement and mental health that Commissioner Brenhag mentioned earlier, maybe what we could look at doing is having some type of educational program sponsored by the HERE Commission. And Commissioner Brenhag mentioned normalizing mental health disorders. So maybe we could have recommend a program and work with our youth to put together some type of informational session or educational program that is offered to the city, where we really do look into discussions around mental health and services that people can have. Community information, this goes to access. I don't want us to have to reinvent the wheel. As someone said, we have a lot of this information available already on the city's websites, but it's just a matter of to recommend that the city invest more time into updating those websites and really utilizing their social media pages. That may be someplace where we can get our youth liaison to work, because our youth certainly know a lot about social media, way more sometimes than older people do. For accessibility, Mark mentioned the agendas and the meeting minutes, at least being in Chinese and Spanish. And I second again, Commissioner Brenhag, that at least if we can say that we are working towards improving the system by getting out those translations, even if they're a couple of days later, that is better than where we are now. And the goal is to continue to improve. And so what she said in terms of providing the dates when people can expect those translations to be out will be really helpful. Partnerships we discussed already. Under data collection, I do still, I want to remind all of us, I guess whoever's on the phone, that this commission kind of was born out of the struggle this summer in terms of equity, in terms of policing and injustice and social injustice. And so, I like that we all are kind of warm and fuzzy and everybody is on the same page, but I don't feel like we're doing our job if everything is so easy. We need to, our job as the commission, I see, is to ask the difficult questions, to make people look at information that might be difficult for them to hear. And if there aren't any problems, that's great. But I think if we don't ask questions and we don't ask for data, then that's a problem. So my reasoning in asking for that information about traffic stops and about suspicious people was to see if there's a disparity in the traffic stops or in who is being called on about being suspicious in my neighborhood. And if that's the case, then to use education or other means to help our residents understand that everybody is not going to look like you who walks through your neighborhood, or help our police department to recognize if there is the disparity in their traffic stops and to try to get at the cause of that. So I would like to know from our city staff, if that data is not being collected now, what can I ask for, or what can we put on our work plan to begin to gather that data? And then finally, and I'll let people is, before we do any of this, and I've kind of spoken to a couple of staff members before, is I feel like this whole idea of creating an annual work plan, I asked Mark about at the end of last meeting. We are the only commission who have been asked to create an annual work plan. And I think a strategic work plan is wonderful. It is necessary. It provides vision for your organization. It makes things run more efficiently. It gives the community something to kind of get behind and understand your mission. And so if for all those benefits, and Mark might explain a few others why we were asked to create one, I think that it is only equitable that all of the commissions be asked to create an annual work plan, at least those that create work, which would mean this Community Services Commission and the Historical Preservation at the very least. And if that doesn't happen, I think it is the ultimate in irony that the HERE Commission is being asked to do this outside of all the other commissions. And I don't think we can get past that inequity until it's addressed. So after that, I will open the floor to other comments.
Anyone else?
So as far as the work plan goes, at the end of the year, are we going to review what we've accomplished or our deliverables, or how is that going to work out?
So before we even start with the work plan, my understanding, it has to go to City Council where it can be, where it needs to be approved and it can be revised. So again, I just have to stress my feeling that that is not equitable to the other commissions. So we're going to put together this work plan, and hopefully it will be, all of the items will be approved in some way by the City Council. But it is possible that some of the items that we put, that is not the direction that the City Council wants the HERE Commission to go. And so that can be removed from the work plan, or I guess we will be asked to rework it or revise it in some sense. But yes, I would hope that we would build in some type of measurables at the end so that we have that information. Commissioner Brinhall.
I was wondering, with what you were talking about with gathering data from the police department, you spoke last meeting about meeting with Chief Harris prior about maybe some of these things. And I'm just wondering if it's possible to kind of, have like, I don't know if a partnership, but some kind of like working with the police department as far as learning about, because I know they probably have a lot of like, anti-bias training, de-escalation training, all these different things like I don't even know about, but there are things that are interesting to me that I'm interested to learn more about. And he does do the like coffee with the chief. I've seen that and I haven't gone on. I feel like maybe I should. But I also see, their presence in the schools, and sometimes like I wonder, like, do they have to bring their weapons onto the elementary school campuses? Like, is that, I have like these little things that I'm just like, okay, it's the presence of a police officer in and of itself can be like a threatening or fearful thing. And so I'm like thinking about all these different issues that I see with, having them be the like liaisons for mental health issues and homelessness and other things. I don't know if that's opening it up even wider than what we already have, but I feel like it's kind of in the same idea of like trying to make things equitable and people to feel like safe in this community,
Can I just add to that as well, Commissioner Brenhan, is that we recently had the School Community Engagement Team, SCET, that Chief Harris put together, where there was a school resource officer, right? And it wasn't just at San Gabriel Unified, it was through all the schools. They wanted to make it equitable. And there was a presence to get that connection with the school, engaging the community, right? About the police department. So yeah, that would be good to have someone come out and talk about that program and when they come onto the campus. And they've assisted us in, maybe sometimes doing house visits. What I'd also like to see, because, it would be interesting to see like what your rights are when you're pulled over, by a police officer. I'd like to see a presentation, even from a police officer in knowing what your rights are, because I don't think a lot of people do know what their rights are. What information you can provide, what information you have to provide, or you don't have to provide, and those things like that. So, but yeah, having maybe the police department just talk about that school community engagement team would be great.
So, Mark, in terms of, I'm sorry, Commissioner Goda.
I just wanted to uplift what Chair Jennings Nunez was saying about data collection, because I think that's a key component for us, particularly as this is a new commission. I really do also believe that we have to have a basis, a starting point. So I absolutely agree with you in terms of all of the data collection that we've mentioned here. And I think also the important part is really what the community's perception is. And I think maybe what Commissioner Borja and Brenhag are also saying is maybe what is the perception from the community's point of view around policing as well? You know, what is the transparency? What is, you know, as we mentioned here, we don't really even know many of the things that maybe would be helpful to community members and help ease that relationship. But I do want to express my support for the data collection piece being a high priority for the group.
Commissioner Fitzsimmons, do you mind if I give Commissioner Khan just a moment because it's almost 7:45 and then we will come to Commissioner Fitzsimmons?
Yes, thank you. I still have 15 minutes. Thank you very much, Commissioner Nunez. I have come to understand I think I've just expressed this last time also. The goals are lofty. And in understanding and going through this commissions so far, I don't think we have the real grasp of how we want to round up the next 6 months that we have to do anything which is accomplishable. So far, what I've sort of in understanding, hearing from the rest of the commissioners, what I have sort of noted down is one of the things we're talking about mental health of the youth. None of us are in a position to sort of do anything about it in terms of their treatment. However, in conjunction or in partnership with the school district, somehow we learn a little bit more and try to come up with a program, which could mean that there may be an entertainment, there may be bringing up those low-income families and their children, not the families, but the children first, to have some sort of program that will probably give them some sort of hope and entertainment. Maybe that could have some motivational speakers or entertainment. I just don't have that part of it. But however, I think if we're going to do something in a short period of time, it has to make an impact on a greater number of people. And I understand from the holiday basket program that Ruth is running, she had expressed that there are families who live in motorhomes or live with the families who are the homes where they share one room type of thing. So if we were to put up a program together in partnership with the school, that might be something that could be accomplishable. That's my thought. And also trying to reach the community for their comments. We need to find ways, because that is our goal, or that is actually our scope also, to find out, to sort of be a liaison. And I feel that is probably of most important part, that we need to sort of find ways to reach the community and have, in other words, find some ways to reach them and find out what their needs are. And as Mark mentioned, the other languages, I have actually, again, there are software programs which basically do an instant translation. And I feel that if we're able to put together a small team of various ethnic people and who could say, hey, take this English, let's translate this and show it to me. It's kind of like sample. And they could do that within probably an hour, or maybe less than an hour, a couple of hours. But that's just my input again. It needs to be explored further. I have a Chinese gentleman who does the 1 hour translation every day, which happens during the Ramadan. And he does that in about 4 hours. And he's done with that complete hour's translation. And then he just disseminates that information to the community. But just another thought. And the Native American heritage, as Commissioner Nunez said, or the chairperson Nunez said, I think that would be one of the things too that we need to further study that and then maybe viable within the next 6 months. However, we probably need to divide ourselves into sort of groups and pick a task and then sort of work with the teams that we identify as people that would give us the information as well as work with us. If it has to do with the school district, we can probably work with them on the youth programs, as well as if we have the Native American heritage, we could probably partner with somebody. We need to learn first, then we can probably do anything with that. Like also like I think I've heard from two commissioners that Commissioner Borja and then Commissioner Borja that we need to do something with the police. So I attended years ago. I attended a Pasadena. They're called a Citizens Police Academy, and they had like 16 sessions, 3 hours each, and they would do it twice a week, once a week or twice a week. I don't remember now. So they would bring in people from different expertise within the department. So there would be jail, a person who's responsible for jail will give us that, person from traffic will sort of educate us, and then a person from various social services or other services that basically sort of gives us the information about the city police that we learn from them, and then maybe we can better serve, better become some liaison between the commission and the citizens. That's all.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Commissioner Khan. Commissioner Fitzsimmons.
Yes, to speak to Commissioner Khan, we have had 3 Citizens Academies. They're 12-week courses that the police has put on. The first 2, the first one, actually, there was a waiting list. We only allow 25 people at a time because we do go through all aspects of policing. Due to COVID, we had to discontinue it because it was an in-person, but we do hope to reinstitute that again. We had one specifically in Chinese to address the Chinese population, and the next one was going to be in Spanish. So we do have that in the police department. The other thing that I want to bring out, because I do volunteer at the police department, Chief Harris would be more than happy to be a guest speaker at any time and answer any of your questions that you have in regards to any policing and bring any of the Met team. I also would encourage each and every one of you to do a ride along with the police officers. Go out in their cruiser and see what they do. You can go out with them. You can spend 2 hours. You can spend 3 hours. Ride along with them. See what they see out in the community, exactly what their job is. I think you would have a much better idea of what all police officers encounter. It's not just ride around, drink coffee, and eat donuts. There's a lot more to it than that. We certainly, our world has changed, and even though that we have what we used to call a bedroom community, it is no longer that in San Gabriel. Things have changed. So I think you would have a greater appreciation of the police. When you're riding with them, you can ask them any question you want. You can see them at work. So I encourage you to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Herrera.
Thank you, Chair Jennings. So I'm going to echo what a lot of our fellow commissioners have been echoing as far as the education of our community goes. I want to stress the fact that we do have a platform here that we can utilize. At this point, we are going through this pandemic through COVID. It's kind of harder. I don't see us doing anything where we go to the schools, maybe in maybe possible, but I want to encourage the commission, like Rebecca Perez has mentioned, like Sue has mentioned, Commissioner Sue has mentioned, let's invite people here. Let's make that a normal thing that we do. Let's invite people to speak. Let's have a dedicated guest speaker so we can invite, like the chief, I'm sure he will be more than happy to come out here. And, or we can ask those hard questions, right? We can ask those hard questions and normalize them. That's the most important thing that we need to do. Because when people think about the police, they think about these big old guys with guns or girls with guns riding around and they're beyond the law and above the law. And they're not, right? That's how we see them. We don't want to get pulled over. We don't want to be harassed. Not that I've been pulled over or harassed in our city of San Gabriel. We live in my experience within the city has been nice. I can't complain. I'm a person of color. But I'm not doing anything wrong. But again, this is why we have this commission, because we want to stand up. We don't want to see that happening in our neighborhood. We don't know if it's happening in our neighborhood. And that's why I agree that we need to see the data. We shouldn't be blocked. Like the chair said, Chair Jennings, that we need to see the data. We need to see the numbers. There shouldn't be any pushback on us getting the data, the reasonable data that we're requesting for. But again, I want to go back and stress that we do have the ultimate platform right now, and we can set in on our meetings where we have a guest speaker for 15 to 30 minutes. It could be somebody from the educational side, from the school. It could be a student. It could be a student saying how they perceive things, right? Try to understand them, even just asking them to explain or express how COVID has treated them, and try to find somebody maybe that wants to highlight, hey, you know, I've been going through withdrawals, and if they're open to talk about it here in the commission, we should welcome that. And also welcoming the police to come and normalize themselves and say, hey, you know, maybe if they wanted to, they can show some personal pictures. Hey, you know, I'm a person too. I'm just here trying to make a living as well, just like you. You know, I'm not above the law. I am the law. I'm here to enforce the law, not above the law. I'm normal. And that's the thing that I do like about our police department. And I have gone out with the coffee with a cop. I went to the last one, and they're really approachable people, especially the chief. He's really out there and for the community, and has gone up and beyond to normalize himself. If you follow the San Gabriel Police Department, they do some silly stuff, and I think that's admirable that they're doing that they're just saying, hey, you know what, I'm normal. But we have this platform here, and we are, I hope, right, this is the whole purpose of having this commission. We are going to ask those hard questions, like the chair said. So I want to do that. If we could set something for 15 minutes, anybody can come, you know, depending on, you know, what they want to present. They can present 15 minutes of what their culture is. Okay, well, I'm from China and I want to present, this is what my culture, my traditions are. Here's the perfect platform. We have the perfect platform. This goes on YouTube. This is streaming live right now. I don't know how many views we get. That's going to be a different story, right? But we have this platform which we can use, and we should definitely maximize this by having those guest speakers. So that's I yield the rest of my time. That's my input on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice
Thank
Chair.
you. Let me just take a minute. I want to just wave goodbye to you guys, and I'll see you next meeting. Thank you very much, and sorry about that leaving the meeting. Bye-bye.
So trying just to kind of regroup around our work plan, because I guess the goal is by the end of our meeting tonight to at least put together a more solid draft, even if we have to take it to our next meeting. So I want us to circle back to our work plan. And what I've heard so far in terms of trying to put down some concrete items is, if we have 6 months and we want to put down some concrete items in 6 months, that our work plan would include an educational program inviting a police department representative to discuss the rights that you have when stopped. I like that. That's what I want to hear from the police. Is because we're all about, again, equity and understanding how policing may not be equitable. So I like what Commissioner Borja recommended in terms of us giving people information on how to protect their rights and how to receive equitable and just treatment from police departments, not just ours, but anywhere. So that would be one specific item, that we have that educational program. Another one that I would like to see us do in the next 6 months is bystander training. It's very easy to do within half an hour, but if we could have one of those educational programs during our meeting for bystander training. If you're not familiar with that, it's basically how to diffuse, a situation where someone is being harassed or there's kind of active racism going on, and how to diffuse that situation and protect that victim. So that would be something that I would like to see specifically us have during one of our meetings. The other component is our whole data collection. Mark, if you can help us figure out how to put that on our work plan, that it sounds like all of the commissioners feel that it is really important to have that data in some type of way or begin to collect it. And as Commissioner Khan said, to determine what the perception of services is in relation to equal and ease of access to our city services, I think is what Commissioner Khan said to kind of finish that statement out. I'm still plugging away from my Native American Heritage Month. I know that we have to come up with what that's going to look like, but I think that should be in our work plan for the 6 months. And I'm also going to ask if people agree. If they don't, then we'll move on, but agree with recommending that an annual work plan be instituted for the other two commissions so that we are being treated equitably. So those are the items that I see. Oh, I'm sorry, last one, and then Commissioner Brenha, you're next. And then also that we develop an educational program, as Commissioner Brenha said, to educate and normalize mental illness and mental health. I know that most of us, maybe Commissioner Borja may be a mental health professional. The rest of us maybe are not, but there are programs that we can provide out there, maybe that don't give people treatment, but just to begin the discussion in our community. Lots of ethnic communities especially have a real stigma around mental health. And so I think addressing that as our commission gets to that safety point. Commissioner Brenha.
I was just wondering if it would be helpful to go from the top down, just so that we can, just like, let's look at number one. Like, what comments do we have on number one, so we can kind of more solidify it and,
Matthew, would that be helpful?
That would be great. Yeah.
So under community engagement, I guess I don't know how to do it in the sense of without everybody taking 5 minutes on each item. Commissioner Goto?
I was just going to say for this one, I think your idea for the Native American heritage, I think you mentioned that was in November. So that seems like a really doable goal for us. And it seems like that would be a great opportunity to maybe kick off if we're able to put together a community survey as is discussed here about what kinds of events the community would like to see. If we were able to develop a short or quick survey or online form, that seems like it'd be a great opportunity to make that known to the community, as well as to celebrate the event. So I think that maybe those could sort of be consolidated together, perhaps.
So maybe from the community engagement, and we're going to make a motion and vote on everything at the end, but if we can keep the develop a Native American Heritage Month celebration, I guess we'll say that right now. And then for Vice Chair Herrera's idea of developing or creating an exhibit that celebrates the diversity of San Gabriel to be presented in our current San Gabriel Historical Museum. So if we could do those two items, or is there any other discussion or around that?
I just think that the other things with the survey, surveying the community, that I think could be combined with the data collection part too, because people were trying to also collect data from the community about the perception of things. So
on that same note too, when I was thinking about a survey, I was trying to figure out how to go about, it's not necessarily the creation of the survey, but administering it, how to get it out to other people, right? And so I was wondering, does the commission have, can they do mailers? I know because it costs money to do the mailers. So I was thinking about if, there's a QR code, right? And you can just have a one sheet with a QR code that loads up to, let's say, a Google Docs that has the survey and it's in the different languages so that the people who receive it can just go over the QR code and it takes them to that. So I was just thinking about in terms of money for mailing, is there money that could be used for mailers?
At this point, there is not, so that would have to be, sorry, Rebecca. At this point, we would have to put it in the work plan and you would come up with some of those ideas that you have, and whether it's through social media or through other aspects. If there was something that would cost money, then you'd come up with an estimate of what that might be. And then you'd ask council for that as part of your work plan, and either we'd include it in the budget for next year if council approved it, or try to find money in our current year's budget. But I appreciate you asking that question, because there will be the bean counters and the staff members here who are going to push costs forward for some of these items. And we do not have an unlimited budget as a city nor as a commission. So if we have to put price tags on items, that will be part of how the city council prioritizes what actually gets implemented or not.
Mark and Rebecca, in terms of where the city has had the most success with getting back feedback from the community, what I've seen of surveys from the city is literally you'll send out thousands and get like 30 replies. So do you have a recommendation for how you've gotten the best return?
I was going to suggest something. So we actually have a new platform that will be coming out here shortly, a social media platform. And actually Lucy from our team is kind of the lead from our team, but there are several departments pulling this together, called Enjoy San Gabriel. And so this is a kind of a new platform, and we're looking for items to include on that. So it will be kind of arts, culture, really trying to engage our community with social media. So this might be something that could be included on that. It could be kind of some general information about the HERE Commission. Obviously, as things go down the road and we have the Native American Heritage Month celebration, it could be something about that, kind of some educational component as well as the cultural component. But that might be a good avenue to get the word out there. The other avenue that we have, our recreation guide, which you may all be familiar with, is something that's issued 4 times a year. We've been doing that online since COVID, but that is another place where we could get some information out there that would be a little bit more buried, if you will, but it may reach some people that the other, the social media piece would not. So those, I think, would be good avenues. You're correct, Chair Jennings, that sometimes you put surveys out and they may or may not come back to be super fruitful. So those might be the best ways to get the word out there and get it out there a couple of different ways. The city also has a publication, the Grapevine, that goes out opposite of the recreation guide. And so all of those might be avenues. There are a variety of existing publications. I know in the past, the neighborhood watch groups have had publications going out to those groups as well. So I might suggest those would be the cheaper route, if you will, to utilize some of those existing publications that already potentially have some readership. And we do have, like I said, this new social media platform of Enjoy San Gabriel that will be a good opportunity, I think, to get word out about the HERE Commission and the great work that you're doing as well.
So can we put down as a specific annual work plan item that for that 1A to develop a survey and publish it in the the recreation guide? And so we'll choose whatever the recreation guide is, the fall recreation guide, but to choose something before November, hopefully, and the fall recreation guide and the Grapevine newsletter with the QR code to gain this information. I'm sorry, I know that was all jumbled up, but basically, can we develop a survey and then publish it in those 2 areas to start with? That would be our annual work plan item.
I think we can even step back a little more and be even more general in the work plan. We could say develop a survey and then work to identify the best method for getting that out to the city, including using existing publications like the Grapevine Guide or the next issue of the Grapevine. And we don't have to get into that part of it. And we can spend a meeting talking about that and figuring out how to best do that rather than try and figure that out on the fly as part of the work plan.
Perfect, thank you. So I think if we do those 3 items from community engagement, that would be good. So for youth engagement.
Sorry, Chair Jennings, one last thing I wanted to mention regarding the Native American, we do have a couple of different groups, as you know, in our community, and we do have a group in particular who we have worked with in the past, and we would be happy to again, if the commission is so inclined to have kind of a presentation or some information received from that group, we do have a contact on that. So that would be a possibility. Obviously, you're interested in hearing about what the community would like to see, but I think some of that education for the commission might be valuable as well.
So for youth engagement, one of the items that would be doable in the next 6 months would be to identify, we could use, what do we call them? A youth commissioner. If we could recommend adding a youth commissioner to our group, the way we put it could be
a member, right? A member or youth council, or just a member or memberships, maybe selecting from each school to send a representative.
So like an ambassador?
Or liaison.
All good words. So, I don't know if we would be able to manage one from each school. There are at least like San Gabriel Mission, San Gabrielino, San Gabriel Academy, and San Gabriel Christian. I think there are 4, and Del Mar. So maybe to start with, since we're still learning our roles, maybe it would be more manageable to just say 2 and they would apply, or pick a number. I'm just saying whatever number, instead of trying to gather one from each school, that we could open it up to the city just the way that all of us applied for a youth liaison or youth ambassador, whatever we want to put, but that we'd like to have a youth presence on our commission.
Yes.
Community information, I'm going to put education under this. So all of our discussion that we had about bringing people to our meeting and using this platform to educate the community, so that we would do one on, Rebecca just, one, maybe an invitation to one of our tribal leaders, one on know your rights with the police department. And I don't know, Mark, if we have to be this specific or not, but it helps. So we can just say, do we even have to put a number? How many educational opportunities we want to have, or just utilize our meetings for community education?
I would say the latter, and then I would give a couple of examples so everybody knows what kinds of things you're talking about when you get into those specifics.
So those were the 2 examples. Does anyone else want to add anything to that?
So when you're talking about bystander training and like also mental health stuff, that was separate from these, or also part of the educational components to these meetings?
I would see bystander training as a portion of our meeting. I've been to a really nice bystander training that took about 30 minutes. I think that could be part of our meeting. And then for the mental health, I would like to see that as a program that we sponsor as the HEAR Commission that's separate. That was my idea.
I like that.
Chair Jennings, on that bystander, when you mentioned that and how to de-escalate racism, I thought that was a great idea. And my thoughts too were, wow, wouldn't it be great for students to be able to participate in it too? So if we do have it at one of these meetings, we can have students participate and get that training. Because I've never heard of that training before. And I thought,
it's really incredible. Like I said, it doesn't take very long at all. It gives people some really helpful ways to intervene and stay safe. So I will bring more information. Maybe you can make, I don't know if that needs to be an agenda item or if we can just for the next meeting, but certainly I can provide more information. Or if the staff would like to, I can give the staff my contact information if they want to bring that back to the next meeting just or to provide to all of the commissioners. So accessibility, Mark did say that the city is already working on that, but I think we should put in our annual plan that we agree, encourage, whatever the wording needs to be for them to proceed sooner than later on at least providing translations for the agenda and meeting minutes with the goal towards working towards a broader translation of the city council meetings or something along those lines.
Jennings, I think Sue had a question.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Sue? Commissioner
Yes,
Fitzsimmons?
I have a question for Mark. Mark, do we have any idea when we might be able to conduct our meetings in person?
I do. That's a great question. We're looking at citywide sometime in July, likely. We're going to have a discussion about that with council in one of their next couple of meetings. But after the state presumably opens up in June, we'll be looking at that in July. So I could see this commission and the other commissions following shortly thereafter. We could have a discussion with the commission and there would still be the ability to do it virtually if that's what the commission preferred. When it comes to that point, the issue we run into from a technology standpoint is we can't do a combination of it. So it'll have to be either everybody virtual or we're all in a meeting together. So we can talk about that when that time comes.
Yeah, because I was kind of feeling that if we do have speakers, if we had it in person, I think it would have a larger impact than virtual.
And when we are live, we would still televise the meetings. People would still be able to watch them on YouTube and on the cable channel. We just wouldn't be able to have the commissioners as we are now in a virtual or in person or combination of that.
Great, thank you.
And then for data collection, Mark and Matthew, we would like to see all of these items remain on our request for data collection manner.
Excellent.
So if I can make a suggestion about that, Chair Jennings, I think what I would form that as, and Matthew and I can work on the language to bring back to you all for the next meeting, Matthew and Rebecca and Lucy and I. But my suggestion would be is that we put some context to that we gather the data if it's available, and if it's not available, that could be part of some of the different form of education. We can have somebody from the department available to talk to this commission about the kinds of things that we do collect. And then you all can have a dialogue with that person or persons about what would be important to you all for data collection. And then ultimately, I think you'd come up with a suggestion for the council on a different way to collect data if there is one. If you find after talking to the police department that you think there needs to be different data collected so you can make those kinds of decisions that you're talking about making, then your work program would be that. And at the end of the year, or whenever you're done with that part of it, you would present that to the council, and ultimately the council would make that policy decision that they direct us as staff to implement whatever the protocols that you all are looking to have implemented. Did I explain that well, or does that make sense?
Yes.
I do feel like what you were talking about earlier with the business licenses, I feel like I don't need to see that data, but if other people feel like it's important to them because they're saying that they only deny business licenses if like there's some kind of something wrong with the address or I don't know.
I agree, Michelle, in the sense of trying to simplify, I guess, our request for this year. It sounds like that may not be one that is very, that really gets to the point of equity, because it doesn't sound like many business licenses are denied. And maybe a different question would be how to get more diverse population of people to apply for business licenses. So that may be a question for us down the road. But in terms of looking at who is applying for them now and whether or not they're being approved or not, it sounds like from what Mark said, that pretty much everyone's approved. So if that is the case, then I agree we can remove that one. I'm okay with that. I don't know if the rest of the commissioners are okay with that. Thank you, Commissioner Brunha. And then maybe just at the end, we can go through to the commissioners who are remaining and just give them an opportunity if there's anything else that you would like to add to the work plan. Yes, Mark.
The only thing I didn't hear you recap was your request for the equity in the work plan to have other work plans added. And I think I saw a bunch of heads nod, but just to get a confirmation.
Because adding that on, but yes, I would like to add that. I don't know if it requires a show of hands of other people who agree for us to put it on the work plan, or how that would work, Mark.
I think you can just ask. I saw a bunch of people who were agreeing with it. And if that's the case, then ultimately we'll put this together and you'll adopt a formal document at your next meeting. So if it's, it isn't what you thought it was, you would say at that time, we don't accept that part, or we want to change that part. But yes, I think we have a direction to put it on there.
Yes, please. And then if there are any other items that you would like to see put on the work plan that you guys suggested before, or that are new and not on the draft work plan, would you like to speak to those now? Any of the commissioners? Commissioner, Vice Chair Herrera?
Thank you, Chair Jennings. Something that I didn't mention on the last meeting or today was something that I had thought about a while back, and that was the creation of a cultural, inclusive, and diverse parade. It doesn't have to be a long one. It could be very short around our San Gabriel district, which will help to highlight our area there and hopefully bring people from outside and allow the opportunity for everybody to express who they are. They could be LGBTQ, they could be Native, they can be Chinese, or whatever they want to showcase. They can feel free to come and join the parade, right? We can invite the schools, the police department. And that was just something I wanted to throw out there on the table. I don't know how feasible it is at this point in time, but I wanted to actually throw it out there. I would love to see a parade like that here in our city.
Is it possible, or Vice Chair Herrera, for this year, even just thinking small, are they planning to do our 4th of July parade this year, or are we not having that for San Gabriel?
I can address that. We are not planning to have that this year, just for the sheer fact of COVID, and as things are starting to get back, that is an event that, though our parade is not very large, and actually we'd appreciate an additional component being added to that might bring more people to that parade. Though it's not very large, the gathering that we have both at the start of the parade and the end of the parade, which typically ends in Smith Park, would be very challenging to maintain social distancing and to really kind of keep the spirit of that event with the crowd requirements that we have at this time. So we are not planning to have that this year. We are planning instead actually to have a kind of in celebration of Independence Day, kind of a concert with kind of a patriotic theme, if you will. But we're not planning to have the parade. But I like that thought, and I think that similar to the idea of having kind of a cultural exhibit at one of our existing museums, sometimes those are the way that things like this can happen, is that you add a component, if you will, to an existing event. So we add a kind of a cultural component to an existing parade, which I think is a good way to kind of be efficient and be effective with the messaging that we're providing, but also maintain and be mindful of budget, as well as we're trying to plan different gatherings and different events. So I think that might be something to look at doing for next year. That'd be my recommendation.
But I do agree with Vice Chair Herrera that it would be nice to celebrate those cultures in a festive way, like a parade. And I think the 4th of July parade, as you said, Rebecca, including or certainly reaching out to more diverse and culturally diverse residents or groups to participate in that, and making that 4th of July celebration a celebration of diversity, as well as just a celebration of Independence Day, would be a really great goal for next year. And so if that needs to be a work plan item, I would put that as a work plan item also. Thank you, Vice Chair Herrera.
And if
Yes.
I may add, yeah, thank you. I figured it's way too short of a time, and due to the pandemic, it just limits us, our capacity to take care of this business here. I would also like to add another thought, and it's probably gonna have to be until next year. Cultural inclusive movie nights. I'm not sure if the city's doing that already, but I think I heard about movie night, but I haven't heard about like a cultural inclusive movie night where they'll have a on the big screen where everybody can drive in, or whatever the case might be, or they're within their personal household, have the little section, and we could showcase something like a Chinese movie with of course English subtitles or something like that along those lines, or a Spanish movie with English subtitles or something along those lines. I think it will be kind of interesting thing. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Wrap it up.
Any other input, Commissioner Godo?
I know that in our data collection, we said that we would like to see sort of the demographics for the city employees. I'm wondering if we want to maybe expand that to also include the commissions, all of the commissions that are included within the city. And just a thought, as we mentioned, the business licenses, I wonder if there is a plan in the department that issues the business license. Is there a diversity plan, and what that might be? And if there isn't one, maybe we should talk about perhaps what that might look like to help increase diverse businesses being brought into the city.
Excellent. Yes. Any other input?
Just a question, if I may, Chair Jennings. This is a general question that I have. So is the city, I'm assuming they are, but I should never assume, right? We all know why. Does the city have some sort of diversity and inclusion training protocol in place? I think that's something that can get answered today.
I'd be happy to answer that, Vice Chair Herrera, and we don't. I mean, we do for our police department. Actually, they're the best trained out of our departments for cultural sensitivities and that kind of thing. And so I would welcome some addition to your work program to help the city adopt a program like that we would use when, throughout the year in training our employees.
Thank you, Vice Chair Herrera. It seems so obvious and that we missed it all. So thank you for bringing that forward. I think we definitely should have that on our work plan, that we should recommend that all city staff and city employees undergo implicit bias training. Thank you.
For the city staff out there listening, we want to try to make it fun. Okay, it's not going to be, hopefully we can make it fun where, we do have speakers. So all right.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there.
Right. But we definitely make it worth their while.
Right, educational. I just fear that we're going to put something else in the mix and they're just tapping the screen. Okay, I'm gonna get through this training. It's just another training, and we gotta kind of make it engaging. And I know with technology nowadays, it's just, okay, we're gonna sit here and I can have a robot just click the button. Not saying that I'm not encouraging that, right? But I just don't wanna make it like just another training. Here's another training. But I know and I understand the importance of this. So I just want to stress the fact that we should make it educational and a upbeat way, you know. Thank you.
Excellent. Anyone else? So if not, I see from the options that Matthew gave us that we could either move to approve the work plan with the amendments, or we can, if we'd like to continue the discussion to the next regular meeting and have the staff provide any additional information or look at the revised work plan and then make a motion at that time to approve it. I would vote to hold off on approving the work plan until all of the commissioners are present and until obviously the staff have time to come back with the finalized work plan from our discussion today. So do I have a motion to put the item on the agenda for the next meeting to finalize the work plan for submission to the City Council?
I make a motion.
Thank you. Commissioner Fitzsimmons, and do I have a second?
I second.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Do I have to? Oh, Lucy, I'm sorry, Lucy, will you take the vote? I'm sorry, Lucy.
No, no worries. Chair Jennings Nunez,
Aye.
Vice Chair Herrera,
Aye.
Commissioner Borja,
Wrong one.
Commissioner Borja.
Wrong button. Aye.
Oh, okay. Commissioner Brunhog,
Aye.
Commissioner Fitzsimmons,
Aye.
Commissioner Goyo,
Aye.
and Commissioner Khan is not with us at the moment. So motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. So if that is all, then the Hear Commission shall be held on the fourth Tuesday of each month at 6:30. Staff and the commission will discuss meeting dates, meeting times, and meeting location. Before I adjourn the meeting, and I know this is out of order, but Mark, is there anything else that you wanted to add? Or I see that Norma is with us, or if I guess that's an agenda item, so I'm getting off the agenda, but is there, most of the commissions have kind of a closing reports or comments time that we're going to add to the agenda. But I did ask Mark if he could just at least let us know how we, as commissioners, can ask for an agenda item to be put on the agenda for our own education. If you could at least just give us that briefly, Mark.
I'd be happy to, thank you. So we will add to the agenda next time. So at the end, there'll be a time for commissioner comments. And I think it would be used similar to the way Commissioner Khan started tonight's meeting. If there was something that was particularly important to you and you wanted to share with the group, or if you went to a conference or a training at your work or school or whatever, and you wanted to share with the group, that would be a great time to share that. Or if you wanted to add something to the agenda for a future agenda. As Norma talked about in our Brown Act training, we can only talk about things that are agendized. So we can talk about putting things on agendas, and that would be the time to do it. For very short items, we can just agree, that the commissioner would ask for it and put it on, and then we would have that on the next item. If it's going to, agenda. If it's going to be something that's going to require a lot of staff time, then we would ask for direction from the commission so that we would have a majority of the commissioners requesting us to do that. And so during those commissioner comments at the end of the meeting, that would be the appropriate time to do that. All of that being said, if one of you has something that comes up between meetings, and as long as we haven't posted the agenda yet, again, if it's something very simple that you want to put on there so that we can have a discussion, then please give us a call or email us, and within reason, we can put that on the agenda. If it's something that's going to be controversial or requires staff time to put it on the agenda, then we would just bring that up at the next meeting to be agendized at a future meeting. Did that cover that, Chair Jennings?
Yes, thank you. I think that is helpful for all of us. So with that, the next regular.
I'm sorry, if I can, that's
yes.
okay. If I can just jump in. Yeah, I don't have anything to report on tonight, but I did just want to comment on the question of a work plan. I know vis-a-vis other commissions within a city, there isn't that requirement, but vis-a-vis other human relations type of commissions, it's very standard practice that there is a work plan element. And so I just wanted to give that point of reference that in creating the commission, you know, and looking at other similar types of commissions, that was certainly an expectation or something that's pretty common practice with this type of work. So I just wanted to put it out there, you know, going to the equity issue. Again, not as compared to other city commissions, but as compared to other similarly situated commissions. So I hope that helps.
It opens another question, but I'll leave it for another time. So with that, we will, the next regular commission meeting will be held on Tuesday, May 25th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. And we'll adjourn tonight's meeting at 8:17. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you. Good